Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond. My name is Jeanne Daniels, and it's my honor to serve on your board of directors. To those of you who may be new to us, and to those members and friends tuning in from near and far, welcome. We are so grateful to be able to have this opportunity to connect and fellowship with you. We are a community of many faith journeys and beliefs committed to being deliberately diverse and fully inclusive. We want you to know that whoever you are, you belong here. As we continue to work together to put our principles and our values into action to build beloved community, let us not relent in our quest for justice. Let us not allow our courage and our commitment to fade in the face of adversity. Let us continue to side with love together. Thank you so much for being with us today. May this be a comforting, centering, and restorative time for you. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or would like to learn more about our congregation, we invite you to visit our website at richmonduu.org, join our Facebook group, or send us an email at membership@richmonduu.org. You can also watch past recorded services on YouTube. Just search Richmond UU in the search bar and you'll find our channel. Make sure to subscribe. Now, I would like to update you all on our progress during our generosity campaign. So far, we have 80 generous households that have pledged $293,733. Thank you so much for all of you who have donated so far and pledged so far. As you know, we rely on pledges to build our budget, which allows us to compensate our personnel, to fund our ministries, and to maintain our building. Please consider pledging and giving generously to allow us to build a budget that helps us fulfill our mission. The pledge link will be in the chat. Thank you so much in advance for your generosity in helping us grow, care, and act. As a reminder, please don't hesitate to reach out to our staff or our care team if you're in need, and please join us for coffee hour after the service and to get the opportunity to fellowship with our fellow members. Also, be sure to log into the services early to catch all of the preceding announcements and contact Margaret Rush to receive church emails if you do not already receive them. We hope that you have enjoyed the information provided in the communications, such as virtual events, actions, and finance updates. Thank you so much for being such a generous congregation committed to our mission. And thank you so much again for spending this time with us today. Be well.
Good morning. A very happy Easter to you, whatever that might mean to you as Unitarian Universalist. You know, as Unitarians and Universalists, we come from a history defined by Christianity. In fact, those words, Unitarian and Universalist, have very specific meanings in the history of Christendom. And on the high holy day of Christendom, I want to talk a little bit about what resurrection means, or could mean, to Unitarian Universalists today, some of whom are practicing Christianity, some of whom are post-Christian, and some of whom feel that their religion is defined too often by Christianity as something from the margins. We have a lot to think about today, and we're glad that you're with us. Welcome to a time of worship, and I will now light our chalice. Let this chalice be symbolic of our presence in community, of the gift that we give each other by being together on this Sunday morning. Let it be a time of celebration and joy and the deepening of what connects us all. Our Share the Plate organization this month is for the Living Legacy Pilgrimage. Living Legacy was founded to enlarge the experience of understanding deeply the commitments, the sacrifice, the leadership that has been a part of America's civil rights history in the South, particularly in the states of Mississippi and Alabama, and now beyond. We're excited to support this endeavor because even as we've been in COVID, they've been conducting all manner of historical insights, get out the vote, all kinds of lectures and musicals that help us understand what it means to have this legacy. And we do have this legacy living among us right now. Annette Marquis is their operations director. And as I mentioned, they've been at home here in our church. We've been trying to encourage and and provide them with a home as they develop into an ever more powerful place where people can get on a bus and learn what transformation is about. I hope that sometime you'll think about traveling with the Living Legacy pilgrimage. But for right now, you can support their great work, as hundreds of people have taken their buses, and we're aiming for thousands and thousands of people to do so. You'll hear more about this in the rest of the month from people who know it well. So today, let's start with generous practice in supporting the Living Legacy Project and share the plate in the month of April. The offering will be taken and gratefully put to work. This reading is Manifesto, The Mad Farmer Liberation Front by Wendell Berry. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay, want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die, and you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery. Your mind will be punched in a card and put away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So, friends, every day do something that won't compute. Love the Lord, love the world, work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant and that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they are rotted into mold. Call that profit. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of hummus that will build under trees in 1,000 years. Listen to the carry-on. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman nearing to give birth? Go with your love to the fields. Lie in the shade. Rest your head in her lap. Swear allegiance to what is nighest in your thoughts. And as soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection. I'm going to start my sermon with a text familiar to many of you, new to some. Hear these words from John. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, James, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." A paragraph follows in which the apostles come and inspect, and they're definitive because they're male, so they go back to where they're staying. Now Mary stood outside the tomb, crying. As she went, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and one at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize it was Jesus. Thinking he was a gardener, she said, Sir, please, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned to him and she cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. I wanted to share that text from Christian scripture, from the New Testament, from the Gospel of John, because I think so often we're busy defining what we don't believe, that we sometimes wind up throwing baby and bathwater left and right. It's true that our religious tradition tells us we have to make inquiry as to what we believe, that we have to discern, that we have to do some work to sift through things, that we ought not to take scripture or doctrine, dogma, we ought not to take it on face value. We need to work our way through. But it also sometimes means that we don't become familiar with some of the things, the elements that are in religious traditions. We don't read the Quran, we don't read the Upanishads, we don't read the Gospels, because we don't know if we're skilled enough to discern through all of that in order to come to what we like to believe. I preached last week about how sometimes we get in crowds and we start thinking like a group, and we get groupthink that causes us to lose our sense of values. We get drawn away. James Luther Adams wrote about a time when he was at a Nazi parade, and he was stunned at how people seemed swept up in that great fervor that the Nazis brought. And so much so they were unable to make distinctions between themselves and Nazism. And he tried to say something to that effect, and fortunately, a dissenter who overheard what he was trying to argue to the adoring crowd drew him back. So here is a story about Mary Magdalene. Of all the people who traveled with Jesus, and she faithfully traveled with Jesus, she shows up throughout the Gospels all the way along. Of all the people who showed up, she's there Sunday morning while it is still dark. Now, the story of Passion Week, as you may know, is that Jesus has a dinner with his disciples in which he foreshadows his own death, much like Dr. King did in his sermon, I have been to the mountain, and I may not get there with you. But the reality of what he's saying is, I know these are perilous times. Yes, a whole bunch of people welcomed me with palms and put their cloaks out on the ground, lest my donkey's hooves touch the ground. But times change, and I am suspect, and the political people don't like me, and I know we're at risk. And I want you to stay with me. I want you to go to a garden and pray with me, because I don't know how to navigate all this. I don't know what to do. Why do I have to do it? Now, so far, I've told you a story that you can probably relate to. Ever had a moral dilemma that was difficult? The first thing you say is, why the hell do I have to deal with this moral dilemma? I don't want it. And yet it's yours because it's right in front of you. It may be racism. It may be drug abuse. It may be physical abuse, misogyny, homophobia. It might simply be ethical, moral collapse in the use of money, the abuse of people. Why do you have to deal with it? Because it's in front of you. Now, Mary Magdalene isn't even willing to settle to that. She knows there's problems. She knows there's issues. What has happened since that dinner is that Jesus has been tried and crucified, died in a horrible, punishing, abusive death in which he was slowly deprived of oxygen, bled out, and his body was placed in the tomb of a man named Joseph, who let it be used for Jesus. And she's worried. She's arrived. She knows all the crowd thinking has gone on. And they might have decided that he does not even deserve a burial place. And she's worried that they've thrown his body into some corner in a heap for the vultures to pick over. And she will not have it. She loved Jesus. She followed Jesus. She wants to find his body and take care of it. She's not going to confront the people who did it. She just wants to find his body. And she asks the gardener, "Sir, if you have taken it, please, 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 let me know. I'll just go get it and take care of it, okay?" Now, this is really important. In Jewish tradition, ritual purity of burial is very, very important. In the Mideast, it's true that burial is a time of grief and emotion and loss. And doing the right rituals are important. And she's so worried. She wants to take care of this. And she's the only person brave enough to show up at his grave unsummoned. And she encounters this weird stuff where she goes to tell Simon Peter, who's nominally now in charge of the disciples, and he comes and inspects things, and his body's gone. Whoops, gone. Back into hiding. But she stays, and her grief overwhelms her. Not only has he died, but his body is gone. She does not know what to do, what could be done, and she feels powerless. The apostles don't seem to care. She begs the people she encounters to help her. Just tell her where he is. She'll take it from there. What we're seeing in this story is the transforming power of love. Jesus has changed this woman's life with his teaching. And her response to that is to honor him. And when, in fact, in the garden, she thinks she recognizes him, she immediately calls him Rabbi, to acknowledge who he was to her. I know you all saw Jesus Christ Superstar somewhere in your lifetime. It's one take. It's not the only take. She is calling him teacher. She's deferring to him. And now she really does not know what's going on here. If we were to continue, we'd hear about how he starts talking about ascending to heaven and he hasn't done it yet, and you can't hug me or touch me. Something we can understand. But what we know is that Easter, in its most conservative and traditional sense, yes, it's about this body of Jesus rising up, staying on earth for a while and then rising up in a way that Christians affirm his divinity. That's the proof of divinity, that he was dead and now he has risen. Now, I am not someone who believes that. First of all, I don't believe divinity is a light switch on or off. I think we've all got a bit of divinity in us. At least the part of us that is drawn to spread love and care. Some of us have done amazing work with that, and some of us have done amazing work to cover that up. I also believe we are full of humanity, and our imperfect human self shows up all the time. But as Unitarian Universalists, in our history of those two religions, we've been very big on pushing back on the teaching that all human beings are morally corrupt and need redemption. And in fact, they need it so bad that the Son of God must die to redeem us. And then after it's happened, we ignore that it happened and pretend we still have original sin. These are theological arguments that I don't want to burden you with, but let's just say our history is one of asking questions and saying that God is blessing people. If there is a God, and there is the goodness of God, it is also present in God, in human beings, and we are his creation. Now, whatever your theology, you probably, as Unitarian Universalists, affirm that there is beauty and goodness in us. And sometimes we recognize that it's harder to get the beauty and the goodness recognized and brought forward and invited into life, because there's a lot of folks out there teaching that it's just emotional claptrap and unnecessary, and productivity is where it's all at, and productivity turns into money, and that's really important, and all these other things are not. And I think you might agree with that as well. There's far too much emphasis on transactions and profitability and wealth. So on Easter, this Easter morning, as a Unitarian Universalist, you can just shut this whole thing off and say, nope, not my holiday. You can just focus on the ham and the yams and just call it good. And yet, we would miss this beautiful human teaching. That in life, when we have loved and been transformed, When someone has taught us a new possibility of how we can function in the world differently than we did before, we can say that they are showing the image of love, the vision of love that can motivate and transform. And that is what Christians call imago Dei, the image of the divine. When we say namaste to each other, we're actually saying the God in me sees the God in you, or the godliness in you. In Christian teaching, Jesus was transformational. Now, all the theology that follows after the life of Jesus, he ain't responsible for. And I love that she calls him Rabbi, because that's how I feel about Jesus. Not my God, my Rabbi. Those of us who've been raised in a Christian tradition know how formative the teaching of Jesus can be. I still try to understand what it means to read the Beatitudes, or to understand the life and the symbolism of his teaching. He's a great teacher, and he's not the only one. I know many of us have a thing for Buddha, or we dwell on more current teachers, or we sit or do yoga, or whatever reaches our inner self to bring forward the mystery. But here on Easter, let's not just run over the date and say, don't do that anymore. I know what Christianity is, and it's not what I want to be. Nonsense. Don't worry about being a Christian. Worry about learning how to follow the teachings of Jesus. That would be a much better question by far. So on this Easter Sunday, join me. Read that chapter from John 20. It has more detail. Oh, you don't have a Bible? You know you can do this online, right? Read it in one translation. Read it in another. And connect to the feeling you had when someone you loved has passed. To when you can never again hug or be with them or have a conversation. When you know you've lost deeply. Sometimes when I walk Hollywood Cemetery, I think that's what that is. It is one big expression of grief. The cast iron dog and the engravings on the infants' tombs. There has been love, and it has been lost, and that changes everything, which is what the teaching of Easter is about. Mary Magdalene knows that everything has changed, and she is there to witness love. So, may we. Blessed be. Prayer isn't always a natural language. Sometimes we struggle to understand what it might mean in our lives. But if you will, please now center with me. Be still, be quiet, settle in, touch earth, touch hands, and join me in a time of reflection and prayer. Spirit of love, whose power and greatness we often do not detect, whose teachings are hard, who asks so much of us to live into our full humanity and perhaps even something of our divinity. Let us understand how we might flow with the gift of love, how we might stand back from the moments of hatred and ugliness, how we will not stand by when people are threatened or beaten, so that we might live the values we claim. This hard work of getting close to what is loving, sacred even, takes so much from us. Our human preferences are to avoid the suffering, the demands. We prefer sometimes to stand idly by as injustice is meted out for the sake of our own safety. But Spirit of Love, it is true that we know we are called to live in the light of love. We know we are called into community that strengthens us and teaches us other ways of being transformed. Spirit, help us to lose our mind, to separate ourselves from everything that is expected, to live in ways that are intentionally poor, that we might become personally enriched with love and dignity and hope. Spirit, bless us in this struggle, because we know not where to go to get the strength we need sometimes. Help us to recognize where love is present and amplify it. Recognize where love isn't present and plant it. Recognize where love is needed and give it abundantly. In this we might provide witness and healing and helping, and we may be transformed. May it be so. Amen. Ashe. Amen. Blessed be.
Sing, sing, sing and rejoice. Sing hallelujah, sing and rejoice. Sing, sing, sing and rejoice. Sing hallelujah, sing and rejoice. Sing, sing, sing and rejoice. Sing hallelujah, sing and rejoice. Sing, sing, sing and rejoice. Sing hallelujah, sing and rejoice. All that have life and breath, sing hallelujah, sing and rejoice. Clap your hands
praise in great jubilation. Sing out with praise, make a glorious sound. Sing out with praise in great celebration. Sing out with praise, let our voices resound. Sing, rejoice,
Sing and
sing and
rejoice,
sing, hallelujah. Sing, rejoice, sing, sing, sing and rejoice. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah, sing and rejoice.
Hi, I'm Fran,
And I'm Alice.
and we have been members of First Unitarian Universalist for several years. I first came to First UU in Richmond because Alice invited me to come. We were dating. I was in Baltimore at the time, but traveling down here every other week or so. And we came to service at First UU. And from the very beginning, I felt really much at home. One of the reasons I felt at home was I really could relate to Reverend Jeanne. The way that she speaks is so compelling, her sense of humor, and just the sense of fellowship that I feel in the whole entire community. And we're asked today to speak about why we give to the church. Well, there's so many reasons. One is that First UU has provided a real home for me. When I was growing up, I was raised Catholic, one of 7 children. And when I came out as a gay woman at 40, the Catholic Church just didn't seem like a good fit for me. So I was sort of looking for a new home. And when Alice introduced me to our church here in Richmond, I knew it was going to be a wonderful place for me.
And my religious background is very different from Fran's. I was the second daughter of Jewish parents, and I was raised with a strong sense of cultural connection to the Jewish religion, but not really a religious connection. And I have 4 children as well, and raised those children in much the same way. And when I was looking for a spiritual home, I was looking for something in which I could feel comfortable and feel like I was with like-minded people. I lived in Lubbock, Texas, having grown up in New York for some 30 years and checked out the Unitarian Church there. And when I moved to Richmond in 2001, I became a member of the First UU. And I've never regretted that decision. Just as I hoped, I found a spiritual connection, and I have enjoyed meeting the people and in participating in many of the social justice programs. When I'm asked about why I go to the UU, I'm reminded of an incident that occurred about 10 years ago during one of the stewardship campaigns. I went to the basement to return my choir robe, and there was a gentleman there that I had not met before, and I haven't seen him since. And he was, I believe, probably in his 90s. He was all dressed up with a suit jacket and a bow tie. And he told me that people talk during the stewardship campaign about why they go to the First UU church, but that if he were asked, he would tell people why he couldn't go anywhere else. And that really resonated with me. I've been able to find a place where I can be myself and feel truly comfortable with the people that I've learned to love and enjoy the company of the church. So I encourage everybody to support the church as we do, because they participate in so many fabulous programs that we can help be part of.
Yes, First UU has nurtured me spiritually, emotionally, socially, and I feel that there's so many programs that I can take advantage of, and I've grown so much as a citizen because of First UU. So I feel like the money that we give to our church, I feel is so well used, and I encourage anyone who can to give on an annual basis, to give to the generosity campaign. We are all in this together, and we hope that people will be able to contribute and help support the wonderful work that our church does. We want to thank you, and we'll see you in church.
Our service is now at a close. Allow me to extinguish this chalice on our behalf, but to preserve in heart and mind the community we are a part of. Let's go forth and practice a new understanding of resurrection, one in which statues are down and hopes are high, and change is not always greeted as the enemy. Let us live a new resurrection. May it be so. Blessed be everyone. I hope you have a terrific week. If this is a vacation week for you, may it be relaxing and fun. And be here next week, next Sunday morning. We're so glad whenever you are. Thank you.